Requesting connection. Established. Encrypted. We're live. The show you've been asking for. Advice, technology, and community. Linux first, all others second. This is Ask Noah.
Hey, it's Chaz from upstate New York, calling to wish the Ask Noah show a happy one-year anniversary. Here's to many more years of serving the Jupiter broadcasting community with great information and how-tos about Linux.
Hey Noah, this is Crystal Luca from West Virginia, wanting to wish you and all of the Ask Noah show team a happy one-year anniversary. Thank you for all you guys do.
Congratulations on the one-year celebration of the Ask Noah show. It's a huge show, a wonderful show, okay, the best show, the most fantastic podcast in the world, okay, believe me, that's true. I know so many podcasts, okay, the best podcast, but this one is the most fantastic podcast the world has ever seen, okay, believe me.
You did it, Brown Bear. You've made it a year. Now you're just really getting started. Congratulations.
Congratulations on 1 year of the Ask Noah show. My name is Raymond and I've been working with Noah to create a music bed that represents the show. It was an amazing opportunity that allowed me to go back to my musical roots and record some heavy guitars. I hope you like the music. If you need music for your projects, don't hesitate to send me a message on RaymondBeefsing.com, RamonBeefsting.com. And again, Noah, congratulations on 1 year of the Ask Noah show.
Live from Woodbury, Minnesota, the Ask Noah show starts right now. This is the show where we came to do all the things on Linux they said we couldn't do, and take your questions on how to do the same. You can join us this hour with a free call to 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6624, or send an email to live@asknoahshow.com. My name is Noah Chalaya, your host. Delighted to be here with you this evening as we kick off yet another episode of the Ask Noah show, again live from the Tamarack. What is this place called? Tamarack Tap Room in Woodbury, Minnesota. And I'm joined with a bunch of fine folks that came out to watch the show live and to hang out. And of course, it didn't take very long, just a couple of minutes before the Nerd Fest started. In fact, we were sitting out. We got here, and I said we need a table for this many people. And they said, well, we can't give you a table until you have at least half of your party here. And I said, okay, well, we'll just wait. So I was hanging out with Bitmux in the Ask Noah Telegram group. Welcome to the Ask Noah show.
Well, good evening. I wasn't expecting to just jump right on, but hey, here we are.
You know what? That's what the headset was there for.
It's what it's for.
As it turns out.
I guess I picked it up. So
yeah, so we're sitting out there, we're talking, and we shook hands. We met, so we knew each other that way, and then I think it was it 30 seconds before the laptops came out?
I believe so. Yes,
about that.
30.
Maybe a little under that even.
I think you beat me too.
So we sat down. We had our laptops out. Now I noticed you're running Neon, or you're running KDE of some sort.
Yep, that's correct. I'm running KDE over Antergos.
Antergos,
yes.
Do you know that? I get crap for that on YouTube. So I said Antergos, and for years Chris used to pronounce it Antergos.
Yeah.
No. And
Antergos, was it?
Antergos, that's what it was. That's right. The R was after. Antergos, that's what he would say. And the thing is, and we joke about this off air all the time, but when you work in media and you read all of these names, you're the first person to ever say it a lot of the time. So these yahoos that are giving you a hard time have never actually had to say the name, and if they have to say the name, they've never done it on air before. And so a lot of the people that come out to critique you are in the know. What the reality is, like 90% of the people that have ever seen that name have no idea how to pronounce it. And so after he got all of this, took all of this crap for doing that, I went back and I was like, well, let's look at how to actually pronounce this name. And so I looked into it, and it's a Spanish name, so it's you roll the R and whatever. So I sounding it out, and I'm like, okay, I'll put on my best Spanish accent, then Targos. And so I said that on the air, and a couple people are like, that's funny, at least he got the R in the right place. But lately somebody's like, yeah, he drug out rolling that R way too long. And now I'm getting crap for that. And so now I just do it to irritate people. It's pretty ridiculous.
Let's just mangle a bunch of them and see what we get on
YouTube. Yeah.
That'll
Well, I did that for a while. I started rotating the pronunciation of Ubuntu towards the end of last. And every time I'd say it, they'd correct me.
This is the stuff they don't tell you about radio shows.
No, not at all. So they would say I just started saying Ubuntu and then Ubuntu and Ubuntu, and I just changed it to see who I could irritate that week. But okay. So you've and Nia, how long have you been on KDE?
Probably about 6 months now.
Okay.
I switched to it because I wanted to try out the eye candy, the new shiny.
Sure.
And I've stuck with it because it's just been so stable for what I need it to do. And I'm definitely not asking a whole lot of it. I'm not doing too much for gaming. I do some stuff with Darktables, some browsing, some email, your typical sort of computer usage.
Sure.
But it's been very smooth. I am running it with a bit of a graphics card on my desktop at home.
Okay.
In addition, on my laptop, it's without a dedicated graphics card. It's been running just fine for what I need. I'm usually one to go with functionality over form. I usually like to go with the fastest available.
Okay.
But KDE has been just fine. I don't feel like it's that heavy.
Yeah.
And I stayed away from it for a long time because originally KDE before Plasma came out was not so great.
Sure.
And I switched to it, wanted to give it a try, stuck it in a virtual machine, did the whole test drive thing, and I thought, well, this looks pretty nice. So I'd like to try it with some hardware. Threw it on my machines. I haven't looked back since. And everything has been great, except when I updated Antargos, it wiped my printer config, and I have no idea whether that was KDE or...
Yeah, and I've never found KDE to be... I've ever described it as heavy, but what I would have said is that there are a lot of things under the hood that you can tweak, and that can be really daunting. Like, I would never wish KDE on a new user, to be honest with you.
No.
Like, I had a good friend of mine. He was I put him on Ubuntu Mate, and he was asking about the config for the mouse, and he wanted to make it more sensitive. And we found it, but it wasn't nearly to his liking. And I sent him the same config in the Plasma config. Is like there's 15 different options. Absolutely nuts. Yep. So more to come from Bitmux as the show goes on. I want to hear more about. I want to talk about that laptop and the keyboard that we were talking about. We've got another gentleman I was talking about low voltage. I want to get him on. We're going to have a conversation about low voltage structured wiring and what you can expect from support. And, of course, if you want to join the program, the phone lines are open, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. And I'm getting a message from my producer. We had a team meeting as we were discussing doing the new intro and things that we want to change. And I'm not supposed to say the phone number. I guess it's too long if I say 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 1-855-450-6. That's too long, apparently. I'm supposed to say 1-855-450-NOAH the first time. And he made sure to yell at me the very first time I got that wrong. Oh, Patrick is calling. Hey, Patrick, welcome to the Ask Noah Show. Oop, I got to put you on the air, though. Hey, Patrick, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hi, Noah. It's actually Ben again.
Hey, Ben. How can I help?
Hi, Noah. Dude, you would not believe what's going on.
Uh-oh. That doesn't sound promising. You had success for a while. Things were working. What happened?
Well, my MacBook, I put Ubuntu on it. That wasn't a problem. But I'm right now in, of all things, LFS, and there's one quirk.
Okay.
It's the GUI, okay? The GUI, the smallest thing that I could get up on this beast of an OS was XFCE because GNOME was heavy to install. I mean, dude, there was a billion different steps you needed to install just to get GNOME installed. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to happen. And XFCE and KDE, KDE was going to take hours to install on a source-based OS like that. So then I opted for XFCE because it was the second smallest next to LXDE. And LXDE, I hate to say, has the worst theming option of any Linux I've ever seen.
Well, it is a lightweight Linux desktop. It's not really meant to look pretty.
Right. I mean, it's not my cup of tea. I've tried it. It's not worth it. An XFC scales okay on this Mac, but it just doesn't have proper Mac support. So I'm like, okay. Then I got the base of Mate installed, but the big problem I'm having is Mate is a fork of GNOME 2, as you know, so it's also kind of heavy, and it takes forever to build anything on that. So I'm like, well, the problem I'm having is I want to find, well, I'm using the NVIDIA proprietary driver on LFS. That's not a problem. I got that working. But I've also got the Intel installed, so those are fine. But my concern is this scaling crap with XFC. It's like, what the heck am I going to do? Because, you know, I went into the settings, I set a custom DPI setting, blah, blah, blah. But the only downside. So let me
ask you this. Let me ask you this. Here's what I'm confused about. So I remember when you called the program before, we talked about some different desktop options, and I remember talking about the DPI scaling issue before. And like I said the last time, like I mean, you really want to be on a desktop that is aware of high DPI monitors and has features and configuration that can take advantage of that. So that really leaves you with GNOME or or Plasma.
Yeah. Right. And I don't mind building KDE on this, but it's just
okay. Well, how about this? How about this for how about this for another option? What about Ubuntu? Like, what about Ubuntu Mate? Because Martin Whippers is doing some really great things, and I know that he's really working hard to get Ubuntu Mate working with high DPI.
Well, here's the thing. I've built Mate on my LFS, but the Mate Extras is the confusing part because I don't know if I need all that or not. That's what I'm curious about because, I mean, there's so much in that list that it's like, oh my God. I mean, it's.
What are you worried about? Storage space or?
No, it's that the GUI itself. I'm not sure if it's going to work right without those extra packages. That's what I'm worried about because
that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what's the concern with the extra packages? Are you just worried about space? You're worried about storage?
I'm not worried about space. I'm worried if it's going to load or not. That's what I'm worried about.
Okay.
I mean, Mate, it's just, I'm not really sure exactly if Mate needs those things. I'm actually going to log out of XFCE and to see if it even opens up. But, like you said, XFCE is probably the worst option, as Chris, I'm sure, would say, for a GUI for the high DPI computer. And to no surprise, Mate is not loading. Great.
Okay, well, I guess what I would do. What I would do at this point, Ben, because I don't think you're going to be happy staying on XFCE. I just don't see that being a long-term solution for you. I also don't think it's really meant for a high DPI display. So, I mean, if you can go to Plasma, that would be an option. If you can go to GNOME, I think that would be an option too. Looks like we might have some advice here from the community table.
My only thought is that if you're concerned about lightweight, Ubuntu Mate is also the name that springs to my mind.
Right.
And I don't know for sure about the building process. That's not something I have ever done, so can't advise you there. But the overall speed of operation, if you can get it to run, is going to be the Ubuntu Mate. And unfortunately, I'm no expert as far as the installation of and this is on a MacBook.
Right.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't help you there. Sorry.
Yeah, and the thing is too is chat room is talking about this too, and they're saying is Ubuntu Mate actually ready for high DPI? I don't know if it's ready yet. I just know that when we were at the Ubuntu Sprint and I was talking to Wimpy about it, he was saying that high DPI is definitely something that the Ubuntu Mate project is aware of. So that's really the best advice I have for you, Ben. And I'm sorry that I can't give you more in-depth help in a 5-minute radio call. But Ubuntu Mate is probably your best option given what you're trying to accomplish and given how lightweight you want to go. Although if I remember right, you have like a 2013 or 2014 MacBook, something like that. I would not hesitate whatsoever to run GNOME or Plasma on that thing. I think it's going to run just fine. Either one of those would run.
Are slightly sideways comments okay?
Yeah, I had a feeling this was going to transition into something else.
Okay, and I mean, no offense, of course. Now that we've attempted to give a little bit of advice, my other thought is eBay it and grab a ThinkPad, but that may not be the right option.
So let's talk about that, because I was saying, I didn't think you can come on in. You can come on in. Don't worry about it. No worries. We were talking about when we were sitting out in the lobby. We were talking about ThinkPads, and you have a T410. And I was in love. I'm still in love with my T420. I sleep with it every night. It stays in the pillow. It's now not my main laptop anymore, but I still hug it a lot. And one of the things that you and I were talking about is it is designed from the ground up to be a power user's computer. Like the way the keyboard is laid out, the way the functionality is. It's not designed to look pretty. It's not designed to act pretty. It's just designed to be functional and useful. And when ThinkPad, somewhere along the line, Lenovo had this idiotic idea that they were going to redesign the ThinkPads to be more like MacBooks. And I got news for you. I'm sitting in front of a, what is it, X270. This thing is not impressing any Apple users. There's no Apple user in the world that is trading their MacBook Pro and buying one of these. It ain't happening.
For the black brick.
No way. I mean, this is, there's just, no, it's ridiculous. And so, but yet, they have gotten rid of the useful keyboard and gone to this chiclet style, crappy knockoff that have all these function buttons ganged up together. And I was explaining to him this. You guys that are here in person can see this, but the people who are listening, they have to use their imagination. Up in this top row here, they've got all these function keys. So this doubles as my mute button. This doubles as my volume key. It's a very Mac-esque thing to do, right? The issue is, they have gained no usable space by eliminating the dedicated volume controls and stuff that they had here. But so they've gained nothing, but they've cost me a bunch of functionality. And then they doubled up the end and the insert button. Why? Let me help you with this. You know what button I use pretty much anytime I'm inside of my email editor or in the terminal or in a word processor or pretty much any other application where I'm typing? The End key.
The End button.
Yeah. You know what key I've never once used on any keyboard ever in my entire life? The insert key. It's just a useless key.
Never intentionally.
I don't know who came up with it. I suppose back in the days of typewriters, if you wanted to go back and align a character or something, maybe that was useful.
I don't know if hardcore coders still use it. Maybe. That's beyond me.
So not to get too drugged down into the weeds, but if you're going to replace the word, let's say there's the word Lenovo, and I wanted to replace that with a different brand, I either have to get the name to match the exact same number of letters up, or I have to use the delete key after I get to the end of the shorter thing, or I have to get to the end and then toggle the insert off to insert. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's just stupid. Again, open phones 1-855-450-NOAA, 855-450-NOAA, 855-450-6624. The email live at AskNoahShow.com. And of course, we are live in our Mumble room. So if you want to join mumble.jupiterbroadcasting.org, you can join, and we'll take your questions that way, and just I guess ping me in the chat room, but make sure to tag me, Colonel Linux, in the chat room so I can actually see you. We have got a lot of things I want to get to this hour as we celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Ask Noah Show. But first, I just want to thank some of the people that have made this show possible, because they work behind the scenes. You guys hear my voice every week, and you don't know some of the people that work on the background. The first and foremost is owner and operator of Jupiter Broadcasting, Mr. Chris Fisher. And a lot of you only see one side of Chris because you see his show side. And what you don't see is the friend side. What you don't see is the mentor side. And sometimes that leads to a misrepresentation of his character, I think. But more importantly is I don't think he gets due credit to all of the effort and sacrifices he makes both personally and professionally to get you the products that we have. And I don't know how much of the details I want to go into on the air, but suffice to say that when we first went on the air 1 year ago today, I called him up and I said, Chris, I want to start a show. I want to take call-in questions. I want to take questions from beginners. I want to help people that are in the community, and I want to do that as a show. And I don't know how popular it'll be. I don't think it'll bring in any sponsors. I don't think there'll be any money in it. I just want you to take all of your resources and a name that you've worked for 10 years to build up, and I want you to let me do it. And he said, you know what? I would love to let you do that. Here's the only issue. I am leaving on a trip to go to Austin, Texas. And I apologize for my stuffy nose. he said, I'm leaving to go to a trip to Austin, Texas to meet up at Dell. So I'd be happy for you to do that show. It sounds like a great idea, but would you be willing to do it maybe after I get back, or maybe we could do it at Linux Fest Northwest? And he gave me like 7 different really great options that would have worked very well for everyone. And I blew them all off and said, no, I really want to start April 3rd. And I had my own reasons for doing it, production reasons, as well as some things I was working on with the radio station. But I said no, I really want to start at April 3rd, and I'll do whatever the work I have to do on my own. But I just need you to give me the name of your company and access to all of your infrastructure. And oh, by the way, pay for all of the production around it, and then let me do a show. And he said, "Okay, good luck." And if you ask him, he'll say the way he tells the stories, he says, "I gave him enough rope to either hang himself or climb somewhere." So I don't know which one. I'd like to think I've climbed somewhere in a year, but just the other day, I was having a conversation with him, and we're at Jupiter Broadcasting. We're at an impasse, and a couple of things have come up, and a situation has come up. And I came to him and I said, "This is where I think the direction of Linux is going, and this is where I think Linux can benefit the network, and this is why I think the network needs to take this particular risk on Linux, and this is what I think you should do." And he said, I recognize all of that, but at the same time, like, every time you want to do something on Linux, you have to understand that if it doesn't work out, it not only costs me money, but it costs me a reputation. And so I really want to, I want to put some thought into it. I want to think about it. I want to make sure I make the right call. And I'm like, yeah, I understand. And he got back to me about 2 days ago, well, 3 days ago. And I believe me, I've been counting. And he said, I thought about it. I gave it a lot of thought, and you can go ahead and try to do this thing on Linux if you want to. Don't screw up. So I went and we spent a lot of money and bought a lot of hardware. And so coming soon in the next month or so, we're going to have a really cool project all done in Linux, largely thanks to Chris's personal commitment in Linux, but also his personal commitment and belief in this particular show. And so I can't thank him enough or give him enough credit. And one of the things that we're excited to launch as we go into year 2 of the Ask Noah show is we are going to start doing public speaking. So we're going to be coming out to local universities. We're going to be coming out to your local Linux fests, and we're going to be submitting talks and coming out and talking about some of the really cool things that Jupiter Broadcasting has done over the last 10 years with Linux. And I think it's something that a lot of people kind of know in the back of their mind, but they don't really understand how committed this organization is to Linux, particularly Linux on the desktop. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start telling the story of how Jupiter Broadcasting got started. Jupiter Broadcasting actually really started out as a Linux distro. We talked about that here on this show a couple months ago. And eventually morphed into a podcast network, of the most successful Linux podcasting network. And we want to go tell the story of how that happened, what role Linux has played in shaping the network, and how Linux continues to be an asset and give us a unique brand perspective that basically no other Linux podcast has, and there are a lot of them that are doing a really good job. So huge thanks to Chris, obviously a huge thanks to my wife and call screener Sarah. If you call this show, she does a really amazing job of going through, identifying who's calling in, what their questions are. That gives our team a little bit of time to do a little bit of prep on them. Also, if you ever hear me say I'm going to put you back on hold and somebody will pick up and give your and get your information, stuff like that, Sarah's the one that takes care of all that, and she compiles that all into a list for me and takes very good care of that, and we really appreciate it. Of course, Ben, our producer, we thank him at the end of every episode, but Ben is responsible for, he helps us out with guests, he helps us out with a bunch of in-studio stuff, so huge thanks to him. And even though he's no longer with the network anymore, huge thanks to Rikai, who for the first whole year of the show edited the video aspect and the audio, dealt with all of the uploading, published to the website, fed the little podcast feeders and stuff. So if you downloaded the show, if you didn't listen to it live, you wouldn't be listening to it if it wasn't for Mr. Rikai. And so huge thanks to all of those people who, who really made this show what it is, and will continue to be over the next year. Again, open phones, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email live at AskNoahShow.com. This comes to us from Washington Post. Now, usually I wouldn't take an article from Washington Post, but I feel like this is a public service announcement we have to do on the Ask Noah Show. In case you missed it, condom snorting challenge was a bad idea. Imagine uncoiling a condom, stuffing it in one side of your nose, then plugging the other nostril and inhaling as the long piece of latex slides into your throat. Then what? Well, you reach back in the back of your mouth and retrieve the condom. Good job, whoever came up with that. Now, I'm not, we try and keep this show pretty family friendly, and so I'm not gonna, I don't know how much I want to say on this, other than, and I'm not a sex ed teacher, but if you're putting the condom inside of your nostril and you're inhaling, you're not using it right. That's not the right way to use the thing. And the reason, why are you talking about this condom sorting nonsense on the Ask Noah show? We're supposed to be talking about Linux. The ramifications of social media these days, particularly young kids that want to make a name for themselves on YouTube, instead of starting a podcast where we take questions about Linux, they are inhaling condoms in their nose, pulling it out of their mouth. If they don't die, they post the video on YouTube and try to get some likes and subscriptions. And I guess what I want to ask is if anyone out there has some ideas of how we can address not necessarily the condom problem or the Tide Pod challenge or the burner challenge or the whatever the other idiotic thing. You got one? Yeah, go for it, man. Let's see here. Push that button.
All right. So I'm actually an educator. I teach science to middle schoolers.
Oh, okay.
And I'm working towards teaching responsible vlogging.
Okay.
So that's
cool.
been a personal project of mine for about the last 6 months or so.
Uh-huh.
And it takes a lot of scaffolding and a lot of work to really get them to understand what is okay to share, what is not okay to share.
So
then,
I just have to preface. We didn't talk about this at all because this is a pretty amazing coincidence. I was going to talk about this story, which I wouldn't ordinarily talk about, and then coupled with the fact that you're an educator. So this was I just found out. But so tell me a little bit about what you do when you go in as an educator and you try to talk about these things, because to a certain degree you want to inspire creativity, you want to inspire individuality, and so those things in and of themselves aren't bad. It's when those things turn to something dangerous or potentially have ramifications that, in 8th grade or 9th grade was cool, but now all of a sudden I'm applying for a job and that video of me running around with my underwear on, with a firecracker in my butt, that's not so cool anymore. So, talk to me about how do you approach that conversation? What kind of methodology do you use?
Well, we do have some light curriculum that's called social and emotional learning to kind of teach kids to be better people. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is talking about, what is your digital footprint and what is your digital citizenship that you have an obligation to. Mm-hmm. So we do have those conversations about what you do now can follow you for the rest of your life. And I think as some of that is coming into popular media more and more with recent things that are happening, kids are starting to take it a little bit more seriously now. Because, it was an authority figure telling you, oh, yeah, this happens and this happens and this happens, but they don't actually hear it from anybody else.
Right.
So now that it's starting to come up in more places, I think they're taking it a little bit more seriously. But what I'm trying to do with them is, of course, inspire them through science.
Sure.
And as they have those aha moments and different things like that, that's the type of thing that I want them to share and explore, rather than doing ridiculous things like you mentioned. So it's also trying to help them find new interests and to inspire them in other ways too.
Okay. So when you, because it's interesting that you're a science teacher, and so as you go through this, as if I can twist it just a little bit to kind of bring some of the Linux back into it, as you go through, do you find ways that you can talk about Linux, or is it you follow the curriculum, so whatever they lay out, that's what you do?
Well, when I taught high school, I was able to do that a little bit more.
Okay.
In middle school, it's a little over their head, but all of my kids know that I'm a Linux user.
Sure,
I make that very apparent at the start of the year when I do my little about me and everything. And I also do some physical computing and some real basic coding in class.
Awesome.
And I always talk about the technologies that drive that forward and how, open source and open hardware is a really important thing in our community and as part of who we are as humanity, and try to bring that aspect into it a little bit as well. We are an Apple school, so all of our kids have iPads and different things like that.
Yep.
And it's locked down through our school management system and all of that stuff too. So when kids run into those limitations, I always, give them that spark in the back of their mind, like, it's not always going to be this way,
right.
Especially depending on how you choose your technology. If you go with open source, the sky's the limit, and, just keep scratching that itch.
That's awesome. So what are some of the reactions that you... I'm assuming that there's a large majority, especially in the middle school area, that they're going, well, that's Linux. We don't know what that is. I mean, that's got to be a pretty typical reaction, yeah?
Yeah, they don't really know what it is, but a couple of the kids know about Raspberry Pis. They hear things from their parents and different things like that.
Okay.
I've been using Arduinos for the last couple of years in class.
Cool.
And different things like that. So they know the difference from seeing like a microcontroller to a computer, and they know that they're different, and they're not quite sure what those differences are, but they're open to learning about them more. Especially with the older grades, like when you get into like 8th grade and 9th grade, they have a better grasp and they have a higher interest level. Sure.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's really cool, and I just, I commend you for doing that, because if I always wish that I would have had, going back, I always wanted somebody, it didn't necessarily have to be a teacher, but just somebody that I could ask questions to about technology, and they would answer them. And I'm not trying to brag or boast or anything like that, but the problem, the brick wall I kept running into, and I feel like there's probably a lot of us, not only in this room, but just in this community, probably have hit this at one point or another. We wind up being the smartest person in the room sometimes. And what that ends up doing is it stunts your growth to be able to learn. And that's actually one of the reasons I find Linux Fests to be so important, because they allow us to sit down with people that are way smarter than us and exchange ideas. And so Linux Fest Northwest is coming up at the very end of the month. Of course, the Ask Noah show, Jupiter Broadcasting, will have a booth there. We'll be broadcasting live. We'll just wave the waitress in. Come on in, hang out. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yep, there we go. Yeah, so again, we're live from the Tamarack Tap Room, Woodbury, Minnesota. So we'll just take a second while the servers come back and refill the beverages, and appetizers are on me, beverages are on me if anyone wants to come out. Again, phone lines are open, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I just have one quick thing to add.
Sure.
I've found people are a little apprehensive if somebody like myself expresses like an enthusiasm for technology.
Sure.
Like I'll never forget when I was in college, I had a writing course that I had to do, and I did a whole thing about how schools should be switching to open source.
Mm-hmm.
And I created a pamphlet explaining the benefits of it, and explaining, it was Open Office at the time, that was like super popular and everything. And my professor literally said, okay, you put a lot of effort in this, you worked really hard on it, nobody's going to listen to you. If you go to an administrator and you like pitch this thing, they're going to be like, you're a science teacher. Like, why should I take your opinion on this at all with anything?
Sure.
So being able to push changes forward and to advocate for different things has always been a passion of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I take every opportunity to kind of get onto tech committees and try to get my voice out there, even if it's not what they want to hear.
That's fantastic. And I would like to talk to you more off here about a couple of things that we're working on with Ultispeed Technologies and get your input on it. Go ahead.
I just want to say, as the student who was always trying to work his way around the system, I have a thought, because I love your approach so much that you're teaching technological responsibility in addition to encouraging students to kind of explore and look around. And I just want to toss something out there to educators and parents. If you have a child or a student, especially a student, that is enthusiastic and maybe wants to work their way around the system, around the restrictions, squashing them may not be the right answer. My personal opinion, and especially as a father, is encourage them, give them a redirection, give them a place to use that creative outlet, because they are going to become the leaders of the future that software that hasn't been invented yet, they might be writing it 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, absolutely. And, I have dealt with that, as a parent. My son, he's always pushing the limits on what he can do. And I don't mean like the technical limits of like what he's capable of doing. I mean like the limits of like what the rules are. He always wants to push him just a little bit further than he has to. What has been frustrating for me as a parent is trying to decide where I draw that line. How much can I let my child experience technology without getting hurt, but at the same time, I'm not trading in my parent card, right? And so you know, he wants to stream. And that's his big thing. I want to stream, Dad. I want to stream. I want to be live on YouTube. And I'm like, well, how about we record the videos and we'll put them in the family Telegram group or something like that, so these people can see it, but it's not actually on YouTube. And so trying to find that balance has been a difficult thing. But both of you are absolutely right. And like I said, I really commend you for what you're doing with those students. Again, open phones, 1-855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live at AskNoahShow.com. Chaz joins us from New York. Hey, Chaz, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey, Noah, happy birthday anniversary thingy.
Thank you, sir. Did you hear yourself at the top of the hour?
I did not, because I was listening to a different podcast that I catch you guys the next day. But hopefully you'll forgive me for that.
No, not at all. Yeah, I appreciate you leaving a voicemail there. For those of you that don't have any idea what I'm talking about, we had asked a couple of weeks ago if anyone was interested in leaving a voicemail. That we played a montage at the beginning of the hour. Chaz was one of the people that did that, so I just wanted to thank him for that. So how can we help today, Chaz?
Well, it's kind of funny. I was listening to User Error over the weekend, which, you know, bravo on all fronts with that episode. And it's kind of funny, as I'm trying to find ways to do more with less in terms of camping gear and you know, other things of that nature. You're talking about how you have an NVIDIA Shield in every room of your house, which I just thought kind of funny. So since it's the anniversary show and all that, I thought I might kind of put you on the spot with sort of an opposite challenge for you. You get one laptop or desktop, I guess, and one distro for all eternity. We're going to a desert island with this. What's your ultimate, you know, machine distro pairing, and why?
Red Hat, and here's why. I love the folks at Canonical. I love Ubuntu. I use Ubuntu. I have put other people on Ubuntu because I think it's such a great operating system. But at the end of the day, there's two things that play into it. One is Red Hat was the first distro that I ever used that really worked well for me on the desktop. I happen to know a lot of the people, and I'm in communication with them a lot, the people that work at Red Hat, and so I know the direction that they're taking Red Hat. And from a technical perspective, I still run into Red Hat boxes that I set up 15 years ago, and they're still working, and and we're still able to use them. Now, I'm not suggesting that anyone don't upgrade a box that's 15 years old, but it does technically work. And I have very little confidence that I would be able to use an Ubuntu box 15 years later, or any distro. I shouldn't pick on Ubuntu. And it's quite possible that you know, one of the LTSs would work great, but I've never seen that in my experience. It usually is those machines seem to be the ones that get upgraded for one reason or another, and it seems like my Red Hat boxes, even if they're 15 years old, we can still shoehorn software into them somehow, some way. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a Red Hat fanboy, and I'm done hiding it. So if I had to pick one distro, it's going to be Red Hat.
All right, and what about the machine it's on?
Oh, is that part of it too? Man, like a specific model, or just a brand, or laptop, desktop? What are we talking?
Well, I mean, laptop or desktop, your call, and I guess you know, really no restrictions. If you want to say, you know, like what the processor, RAM, storage combo is, or if you've got a model like the XPS 13 or whatever System 76 is cooking up that is, you know, exciting.
All right,
you
I see where you're going.
You know.
All right, well, I tell you what, I would rule out I would rule out the Galago, and I would rule out the MacBooks and the XPS, all for the same reason, because they don't have a usable, changeable battery. And if it's a machine I'm carrying for the rest of my life, I want something I can swap it. Everyone at the table's like, yep. So for that reason, I would get rid of I would eliminate those. I would want something with an externally user replaceable battery. So that leaves me with the HP ProBook line, that leaves me with the Dell Latitude or Precision line, and the Lenovo's. And of those, I'm going to say ThinkPad, if only because they have such a track history of A, working with Linux so well, B, again, you go back, what computers are we using today that are 10, 15 years old? I got a guy sitting right next to me who has a 10-year-old 420, or 410. So I don't see a lot of 10-year-old Dells that are still in use. Not to say that they don't exist. I know the D620, D820 was a great model, but for those reasons, I think I would probably I'd stick with Lenovo.
All right. Well, it's good to know that I got the same brand as your Desert Island pick, even if I am using
There you go. There you go. I appreciate it, Chaz, and thanks again for supporting the Ask Noah show for 1 year. By the way, I'll just make a side rant here because it is a celebration episode and my name's in the name of the show, so I can talk about what I want. Chris and I never talk about camping. We never say that we go camping, right? We never say we go tenting. He travels in his RV, and I have a travel trailer I take behind me when I go places. But so to anyone out there that's like, that's not really camping, we never said it was. He lives in an RV, so instead of having a house, he has an RV, and he just lives in it. So he treats it like a house, and all the amenities. If he could pack all the amenities will run a house into an RV, that's what he does, and I do the same in my travel trailer. I don't call it camping, and I do a thing every year. In fact, hopefully we're gonna have a live Ask Noah show from this event. It's called Field Day, and what it is, it's a ham radio event where we try to exercise. Okay. I got two hams sitting next to me, and I'm going to get to the calls in a second. So don't, Chris and who else is there? James, stay with me. So, do you guys participate in Field Day?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So how do I explain Field Day?
It's a national emergency communications exercise that doubles as a contest and social event.
So, we go out to a random field, as it were. Sometimes they're not as fieldish, but we go to a random place, and we set up all of our radios, and and then you try to talk to as many other ham radio stations as you can, and we take score based on how many stations you connect to. Now, in a perfect world, or in a level playing field, everyone would just get 1 point, but we do what we call multipliers. So we add points based on how you set up your radio. So, for example, do they allow fixed towers?
They do, but you're in a different class.
Right. Okay. So the bottom of the barrel is you have a pre-fixed tower, and you plug into AC power and you operate your rig. Well, that's not. I mean, sure, if there's an emergency, if you can happen to find an erected tower and a power source, then I suppose that's an accurate representation. But the reality is, in the emergency world, we try to simulate, we wouldn't have access to that. And so if you have a crank-up tower, well, that you get more points for every contact because you assembled that tower yourself. And if you don't have any tower at all, if you just throw a dipole up and you just have a thing between two trees that you shot up with a slingshot, that is more power. If you're running off a generator, that's more. If you're running off a battery, it's more yet. Solar is another thing. And so the more I guess independent, is that a good way to explain it? More independent you are, the more points you get. And it's if anyone is ever interested in ham radio, that's the day to get into it, because
For sure. Oh yeah.
So you participate as well?
Yep, I'm also a ham radio operator, and I go to the same field days that he does.
Oh, you do? So do you guys know each other?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to ask, are you guys on the 8.5 machine?
Once in a while, but
Okay.
that one's so busy that it's sometimes it's hard to get a word in edgewise.
So for those who don't speak ham, there is one of the there is one of the coolest anywhere in the country, I'd say, that one of the coolest repeaters. So it's like a tower. It's like a machine on a tower that picks up the weaker signals from your handheld radio and then retransmits it to everyone. Is here in the Minneapolis area, and anyone that is around here, or they at least know what the 8.5 machine is, and when we talk on it, the problem is because it is so ridiculously powerful and so ridiculously well set up, everybody's on it, because you can. I mean, I've been 25 miles out of town and got it on a 1-watt handheld before.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy well set up. And so you usually, I mean, in my experience anyway, I've gone to the 8.5 machine and said, hey, I want to have a conversation. They say, okay, well, meet me on this particular repeater, and then we move to a different one. We just kind of use it to coordinate. But I understand that the reason I ask about it is because I understand that the emergency service and the weather spotting service that runs here, which obviously is a big part of Field Day, is huge and very structured. You guys participate in that at all?
Not really. I don't, but
I have.
Okay.
I get into a little bit of the weather spotting, and I enjoy doing that. Now, I'm not out of the Twin Cities area. I'm actually south, but we have an active Skywarn spotter group, as well as I guess a local community that we like to get on the air and just jabber about whatever. We have Linux groups to talk about Linux. We have radio groups to talk about radios.
Is there a Linux on radio group?
There is not in my area. I would
Okay.
love to make one.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to kind of get together on one of the linked repeater systems, shoot Noah a note.
Yeah, please.
Or jump on the Telegram group. My handle is Bitmux in the Telegram group.
Right. Telegram.asknoahshow.com. Yeah, no, that would be great. I'd love to be a part of that. In fact, I was looking at Yezu has a not to get too drug into ham radio, but Yezu has how do I describe wires? A digital internet connected ability to get ham radios on the internet, so that you can connect ham radios from different places that wouldn't necessarily, without having to invest in the antenna infrastructure?
Right. Instead of putting up a multi-$1,000 tower and gigantic antennas, you can grab your handheld radio, connect it to a local repeater that happens to be connected to the internet, pipe it through to someone else's repeater, and talk to someone you care about across the country.
Right. Or start a Linux group.
Start a Linux group. Combine the magic of the internet and the older, well, I wouldn't even say older, the old school method of just having a good chat on a party line of ham radio.
Exactly.
And you put those two together, it sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah, I can reg chew with the best of them. That's why I have a radio show. I want to take... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
There's a few other technologies that do exactly that same thing within ham radio, like IRLP or Echolink.
So, interesting thing about IRLP, if anyone wants to see how closely Linux and ham radio are related, go to the IRLP webpage, and they literally, one of the sections on their webpage is why we use Linux and won't use anything else. And you can click on it, and they go through and explain like how people have said maybe we could port the software to Windows or Mac, and they're like, no, we're going to run it on Linux, and here's why. And they give this beautiful explanation of the open source nature and the fact that it's reliable, and the fact that it can be nobody can take control of the code, and all of this great stuff. And so but they want to keep it on Linux. I want to take a couple calls. They're stacking up here. Annie is calling from California. Hey, Annie, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hi, I got a question about. I used Mate, and I've used what they call it, Monte, excuse me, and Zubuntu instead of Xubuntu. But now I'm using Lubuntu, and before I can always put these little jumper things in the top, bar, or what do you call them? Sure. Bars that go across the top or the bottom.
Like a dock.
I can't find a way to put my own. Yeah, I can't find a way to put my own jumper in the dock in the upper part. I can go into the GUI and put programs in there, but only programs that it recognizes. So, a good example, my specific example is I have a profile manager for my Firefox, and so I can load my different Firefoxes with the different versions. So I have one for just for different uses, and I can put that into the Firefox or the Internet jumper, but I can't make my own jumper. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yes, ma'am.
Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense. Yeah, absolutely does. So,
is there any special GUI commands or line commands in the terminal? I don't know how to do the terminal. I know how to cut and paste.
Sure. So I have good news for you, Annie. It's actually much easier than that. What you do if you're on Ubuntu Mate is simply right-click on the bar, and one of the options is to add a new shortcut. And from that new shortcut, you can I guess you can. It'll give you one of the options inside of the new shortcut is the command option. So let's say you want to run a specific version of Firefox, you can give it the path to that specific version of Firefox. Or if you want, even if you wanted it to open like a specific web page, you can give it the Firefox command followed by a parentheses and the web page that you want it to open. Now, I'm just asking this because I want to make sure that we're helping you. Is it fair to say that you're a fairly new user to Linux?
Fairly, yeah. I mean, fairly by like 3 or 4 years.
Okay, sure.
Every time I went to switch, when they upgraded to a new version of Windows, I swore I was going to switch to Linux, but then they cut the bugs out. But Windows 10 just pushed me over the edge. And that's
yeah, I hear you. Man, I tell you what, you listen, you jumped out at the right time, let me tell you, because I have people they're talking up a storm, the customers that I have that are on Windows 10. In fact, I was just having a conversation while I was on the road down here to Minneapolis about a client that is as furious that they can't seem to get rid of these Windows 10 updates that go and change their system all the time. So it's a really great time. And the nice thing about Mate is it was specifically built for people that want a consistent interface. In fact, Wimpy goes above and beyond to make sure that whether you came from a Windows environment, a Linux environment, a macOS environment, you can maintain that look with his panel layout. But here's what I was going to offer, Annie. I will give you, I'll put in the show notes step-by-step directions on how to create those icons if you like. If that doesn't work, Annie, what I want you to do is if you have some concerns, or if you say that sounds like that could be difficult for me or challenging, we want to make sure that we take care of you, especially on the 1 year anniversary of the Ask Noah show. So I'm going to put you back on hold, and if you'd like to, Sarah can pick up and take your email address or phone number, and we will schedule an AltaSpeed technician to walk you through step by step the process, or even start a screen share session with you and do it for you. And if that's not interesting or something you're not interested in, just go ahead and feel free to hang up, and I'll have step by step directions for you in the show notes after the show. Chris is calling from West Virginia. Hey, Chris, welcome to the Ask Noah show.
Happy birthday!
I don't know, it's not my birthday, but yeah, hey, man, it's a happy 1 year anniversary. How are you doing?
Noah show birthday. It's the birthday
I'm sitting
of
with
the
your
Noah show anniversary. Okay, cool.
That's true. That's true. The birthday of the Ask Noah show. I'm sitting with your counterpart here from another fellow educator from the state of Minnesota.
Well, I was looking for a reason to call, and he and the other gentleman that made a comment are the reason I'm calling.
Okay, what's funny? Off mic, Chris, I got to tell you, off mic, I'm sitting here, and as soon as I said, for your part, he looks over at me, he's like, "Is that Chris DeLuca?" I'm like, "Yes, it is."
Well, I just wanted to say, good on him for how he's doing, and you can't start with these kids too young. I'm not an educator. I'm an IT administrator for one of the counties here in West Virginia.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. You're one of the people that facilitates kids getting an education. You do a darn good job of it, so don't sell yourself short.
Well, thank you. But what I was going to say is we have my comment is more to the gentleman who said that he was the one who tried to circumvent the system.
Uh-huh.
We have a lot of middle schoolers who apparently get bored, and so they like to pick the keys off of Lenovo laptops and we spend a lot of time replacing keys. Oh yeah, it's bad. So we were
sarcasm font off.
Right. We were piloting a program in one of our high schools, and one of my counterparts in the county actually has an IT staff made up of students. They have taken the role. He interviews them like a job. He treats them like actual co-workers on a job. Yes, sir. No, sir. They have taken the responsibility of the laptops from a student perspective to the next level. They actually are watching other students say, "Hey, don't treat the machines like that. I have to fix that." Seriously. But when you have one of your peers saying, "Stop damaging the school equipment," it's a lot different than when you have a principal or a teacher saying, "Stop damaging the school equipment."
Well, and when they have to, like you said, when they have to fix it, all of a sudden they have a personal vested interest in keeping those computers. And it's a matter of pride too, right? Because they're the ones that set up 25 of those things, and now all of a sudden they're getting picked apart or whatever, right?
Well, absolutely. It's just when you get the kids involved on a different level than just trying to shove information down their throat, it seems that they take to it more.
Sure.
So, you said my counterpart there, the way he is approaching that. We've got another teacher in the county that kind of does the same thing. He's brought Raspberry Pis into the classroom, and he's done programming with the students, and it's just amazing when you see. I mean, I messaged you earlier about a middle schooler who's working with OBS who got the green screen working.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? I guess there's not much else to say.
Well, honestly, because of the strike that happened here, a lot of the schools are in spring break, but a lot of the schools aren't. But they're not holding it against the students, so if the parents wanted to go, they let them have the days. Well, there's so few kids in the school, some of them are running around, and one just happened to be running around with one of the custodians. And he came into our shop, and he recognized me. He didn't know who I was, and he started calling me every name in the book, and then he said, "Big bald guy in the corner." Well, finally, I just said, "Yeah." And he says, "You're the one that set up the broadcasting machine, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he starts asking me, he wants a mirrored screen of the OBS screen. And I was like, "Well, okay, but why?" He says, we want to do the weather. We want to have a weatherman, and he needs to be able to see what he sees and not the 10-second or 5-second lag." And I'm like, "Okay, meet me in there at 2 o'clock." And he says, "Okay." So I go there at 2 o'clock, and I set it up, and he starts showing me everything he's done, and the green screen, and he's got multiple backgrounds now, and I'm like, "Show me how you did that." And he's like, "Oh, sure, no problem." And he starts pointing and clicking and making a new one, and I said, "You know, the high school's not doing this yet?" He says, "They will be next year." And I said, "I've got a guy that would love to talk to you."
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, maybe I can get him on the show with you. Yeah.
Yeah, parental consent and all that stuff notwithstanding, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just when you get them involved and you see their eyes open up, and he doesn't even know what Linux is. I had to explain to him the difference between a GIF and a JPEG.
Sure.
And he's like, "Look, if you can explain it to me like farm implementation, then I'll understand you." So I had to break it down, and so.
So here's the $1 million question I got to ask, Chris, before I move on. If you set this guy straight, or if you set him on a path that's going to lead him to self-destruction and the eventual annihilation of our species, did you pronounce it GIF or GIF?
I pronounced it GIF. GIF is a peanut butter.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. No, he's right. He's right.
That's the guy's name. Very right.
Yeah, the guy that invented it actually says that's not correct, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. So that's really great, though. Well, that's great, Chris. Well, I appreciate it, and I think maybe I don't know exactly how we would structure this, or even how my producer's probably gonna fall out of his chair when I say this, but I'd love to do an episode just on kids and technology and things that educators can do, and things that educators are doing, and cool things that work, cool things that don't work, because I have a suspicion, and I've heard this, both of you have kind of said this in roundabout ways. Kids tend to work better when it's people that are, when there's not a versus mentality, when the people that are making those decisions are people that are approaching it from their point of view, with their interest, with their value set in mind, and not this top-down approach of, here's what this board has decided is valuable for kids to learn because we want to make them productive members of society, and so we need to teach them Microsoft Office, and we have to teach them macros, and we have to teach them web design, and we have to teach, which is the stuff that I learned when I wanted to go learn about computers. And I would have loved to sit down and play with a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino, and I never had that opportunity. I had the opportunity to go learn how to make tables inside of Excel and do calculations, and all of that stuff would have been very useful had I become a certified accountant. Be it as it may, I did not become a certified accountant, and it has proven it's to be totally worthless. So I'm really thankful that there are people like you guys that are out there that are doing those things and making a difference in kids' lives. And a huge thanks to everybody that... I'm just looking at messages that are coming in here. And a huge thanks to all of you that have been part of the Ask Noah show. James... do we got you? Yeah, okay. James, Idaho, welcome to the Ask Noah show. I got about a minute.
Oh, well, you probably won't be able to get it done.
Okay.
Do you have anybody that you might know? You can tie me up later. You can share out my email. I need to know how you can change the KDE newest version splash screen, because all it seems to have in it now is splash screen on and splash screen off.
Okay. Yeah, I don't, off the top of my head, James, I don't know the answer to that question, but I will, there's a bunch of people in the Ask Noah Show Telegram group, telegram.asknoahshow.com, so I'll ping them and see if they have any answers for you, as well as, obviously, every time we talk about something in the show, then, somebody writes in. Hey guys, did you know this show is available as a downloadable podcast? That's right. To subscribe to the feed or download the latest episode, visit podcast.asknoahshow.com. While you're there on the Ask Noah dashboard, help us improve the show. If you have an idea how to make the show better, head over to asknoahshow.com/better and let us know how we can make the show better. Join the ongoing discussion at telegram.asknoahshow.com. As always, you can get the latest information by following us on Twitter at AskNoahShow. The Ask Noah Show continues next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central. A huge thanks to Foxtel for providing our phone system.